This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.
How you doing, baby? You doing good?
Big O, I'm doing good, baby. Dolphins won. I'm happy, man.
That's right. That's right. And by the way, folks, if you're looking to remodel your home, call the folks at EJD Construction in Dade or Broward County only, not West Palm Beach or down in Monroe County, but anywhere in Dade and Broward, 305-433-4843. Eric will take care of you. He's been a proud sponsor of our program for many years now, so we appreciate him at EJD Construction. All right, Perk. I was talking about the Tyreek stuff, unfortunately, because he just doesn't get the benefit of the doubt on my show, unfortunately, anymore because of all the crap that's gone on in the past. And I know the cops are far from perfect on all this, garbage. But unfortunately, that's just kind of the way it's gone. And let me tell you something. Behind the scenes, I don't think they really wanted to give him that extension. But because they're so close as to being a championship caliber team, they kind of felt they were going to have trouble with him handling the fact that he wasn't going to get an extension after this season. And so they took the chance and they give him the extension. And they also name him captain. And I think this is a way to kind of reach him, to kind of see if they could get him to mature a little bit. And then this happens. And again, I don't know what's happened, but I do know this. You already mentioned you were speeding. I mean, we all know when we pull in for a concert, a sporting event, you coast, bro. There's no speeding involved. You're going to open yourself up for something. So that already, as the late, great Mad Dog would say, I already put it to my nosy and it don't smell so rosy. So here we go. What do you think, bro? What do you think?
I think we've got to reserve judgment on the actual incident, on what happened in this actual incident. Ethan Skolnick is over here joking around with me here, but I'm gonna stay focused here. Look, Tyreek has a lot of.
He appears out of the stadium and then he disappears out of the stadium.
That's right. It's incredible, right? It's incredible. Everything around the Dolphins and this media contingent is incredible. But look, Big O, with Tyreek, there's a lot of smoke, right? And that's not a good thing, whether it's a fire or not. And I probably shouldn't use that term because I'm going to say with this house fire and with the incident with the social media influencer and with the deal at the marina, there's just all these things with Tyreek. And it really, at this point, it doesn't matter who's at fault. It matters that there are all these things. And this is not a...
Way, that's what you know.
Right. So, well, yeah. So we don't know the truth on most of these. The whole story.
I'm saying the other stuff that he may have done that you don't know.
Right. Oh yeah. That's true. But look, okay. Tyreek is essential personnel on this team, right? We all know that, and so you've got to kind of put up with everything that comes with Tyreek. As soon as Tua got his extension, I figured you've got to do something with Tyreek, right? Because you want Tyreek here alongside of Tua. Tyreek makes this entire team better. I will say this, Big O. I did write a column at the start of the year saying I think that Jalen Ramsey, Calais Campbell, and Tyreek Hill, likely the three future Hall of Famers on this team. You can say whatever you want about Calais. I think that they're going to be good for this team. And here we go, starting off with this Tyreek incident. But look, with Tyreek, Big O, you kind of have to follow his example on the field and in the locker room. This dude practices harder than anybody I've ever seen, except maybe Alonzo Mourning. And you've been there for a lot of Zoes, right? You know how intense and purposeful Zoe is. That Tyreek, this dude in practice 100 miles an hour, and he sets a great example for the rest of the team. But you kind of have to compartmentalize Tyreek, don't you? The football stuff, you say he's great, and the rest of the stuff, you kind of have to say, I'm not going to really follow the example Tyreek sets off the field.
No, you can't, unfortunately. So, look, I don't know what ends up coming from this. Eventually, I'm sure we'll see the officer cams from it, and we'll get more of it. And by the way, may not bode well for Tyreek if it doesn't look good. You know what I'm saying? Because, the NFL then is going to get a piece of that video. It's interesting. where's the IG video? What happened with the IG model? I mean, she broke her leg.
Yeah.
That video.
Yeah. Well,
Let me see that video.
let me say this about the pregame situation, Big O. For a few times in the last couple of years, the Dolphins have reconfigured the entry. And it's different for the media. I don't know if it's different for the fans coming in some gates. I don't know if it's different for the players. But this could be a situation. And when they reconfigure, quite often the stadium, the people who are helping you park, that word hasn't filtered down to them that things have been changed up this season or at this time. There's sometimes when I pull in, I can turn left. Sometimes I can't turn left. That they don't allow it. And so
you're still doing it, but you're still doing it at 5 miles an hour.
That's the whole thing. You do still have to use discretion and be smart. Now, look,
as I asked, I said in your whole gangbang there around him, he didn't deny speeding, right? He got stopped for speeding, right? He didn't deny that he was speeding. So that, I mean, dude, when you go to a concert or a sporting event, who speeds?
Yeah, you got to be smart. Yeah, I mean, when you're in a crowded area and there's police and police presence and a lot of other cars and pedestrians possibly.
A stadium that was just bum rushed by a bunch of soccer fans.
Right.
They're already touchy as it is.
Yep.
Okay. They were all called out for that. So,
Yeah. I'm going to reserve judgment on just like you have on this incident. But yeah, this might be an incident where there's smoke and no fire, but there's been a lot of smoky incidents with Tyreek, and that's the problem there.
Yeah, and that's where I can't give him the benefit of the doubt. Unfortunately, you're going to have to show me that he's. Unfortunately, you have to show me that he's innocent. I need to see it, unfortunately, because all I know is that off the field, the guy is. It's just crazy. All right. Perk, you signed Jonnu Smith, but you're not going to throw it to him?
Yeah, Jonnu had a drop, right? I believe Jonnu had a drop. They did throw to the tight ends.
You're going to Smythe? I mean,
yeah. Durham did not have a good game today, too. 2 drops and I think a penalty. The tight end involvement, I think, is something that we're going to have to wait for it to evolve. And I think that's the same thing with the short yardage situation, that there are some things that the Dolphins have not been proficient at, that they acknowledge that they're trying to get it corrected. And, use of the tight end is probably one of those things. And look, after one game, it didn't look like there's been much change, but let's wait till after 5 or 6 games, which I know you can't do that on the post-game show after the Jaguars game, right? You can't wait 5 or 6 games. You have to give instant reaction to what happened today. And so what we saw today is that this is an experiment that is still in progress. So, they did throw to the tight end. They've got to, figure out what situations we can throw to the tight end. When is it to our advantage? So I'm going to take it as a positive. You did throw to the tight end. You did hand off to Alec Ingold on 3rd and 1. There are signs that the play calling and the strategy / philosophy are changing. You're always going to go to Tyreek and Waddle number 1, right, and ride to his left arm. But I did see signs that there is some awareness and some acknowledgement that we need to do things differently. So I'm just going to keep it at that, Big O. I know I would have liked to have seen Jonnu get more involved. I think Julian Hill had a reception also, at least one reception. So the tight end is being utilized. It wasn't Jonnu. Let's wait and see how that goes. But I agree with you. You're kind of scratching your head like, you got this guy. Why don't you at least target him more often, if nothing else?
By the way, I got to defend Smythe on one. That guy was draped all over him.
Yep.
And they didn't call it. And that was, and Durham's not a great pass catcher, much less with interference. It was like a couple plays in a row. One, the Tua, they hit Tua and they didn't call it. That was easily roughing the passer. And then a couple plays later, the Durham Smythe one, which was kind of rough, So I thought that would, but it was just kind of frustrating to see that. Now, I will say this, as a Dolphins fan, I got sexually aroused that they finished the game with that running drive.
Yeah.
And they ran between the tackles, Perk.
Yep. Yeah. And
Holy
I know you don't see that, do you? Look, I do. I am on the Chris Greer side of the offensive line argument, and we're talking interior offensive line, right? Austin Jackson and Teron Armstead are fine. This is not what the Dolphins do, the road grader power football. You want them to be able to do it when they need to do it, but you don't want this team changing its identity. It's not an inside zone running team like maybe the Eagles. They're an outside zone running team, and their offensive linemen are athletic. That's what they want. As a matter of fact, they're so big on athletic offensive linemen. They don't want those guys wearing knee braces, if at all possible, because they feel that it restricts movement. It restricts athleticism. You can't get out there and run for that outside zone run play. So, it's another one of those things, Big O. You mentioned that last drive. That's an evolution, right? That's a change. That's something that's different, and we like to see that. We like to see Mike McDaniel and this offense putting more tools in the toolbox and things that will come up later. And I'm not just talking cold weather in December. I'm talking next week when Buffalo comes in. These things will be necessary. These are all elements you need to win games. And I like to see acknowledgement of that, awareness of that, and then they're putting it into practice.
So let me ask you, were you questioning any of the inactives?
No. I know that Ethan Bonner is probably going to be a big one. Jalen Wright is probably going to be a big one. I'll take Ethan Bonner first. I didn't see anything from Ethan Bonner that said, he's going to be the next big reserve who, takes a step up or anything like that. I didn't see a big difference between him and Storm Duck. And maybe Storm Duck gives you more special teams versatility. Maybe, Big O, that this is let's see. And maybe on Thursday, Ethan Bonner is up and Storm Duck is down. I don't know. But
wait a minute. You're on. Yeah. I figured it out. At first, I was questioning, well, wait a minute, dude. Why Jalen Wright? Why are you putting Wilson? I'd rather have Jalen Wright. Didn't you want to run the same offense with the other two? But because you have a Thursday game, I don't think Jalen Phillips plays. I think Kamara plays for Jalen Phillips. I think because you have a Thursday game, I think Wilson now goes to the bench, and then you play Wright now, and then he will get a lot of the carries at times and do some of the stuff that Wilson did, because we saw in the preseason game where he ran tough, and I think he ran even once between the tackles or twice, I think, in that season game. So I think what they did was they kind of used the inactives for guys that they want to use, but on a short week now, because it would not be smart to play Jalen Phillips on Thursday. So you play Kamara now instead. And then also for a running back, you don't want to carry so much in such a short time. Okay, let's save Jalen Wright, and now we can unleash him on Thursday because he'll be a lot more fresher and all that. So I kind of understand. And then you mentioned Bonner. Okay, well, if Storm doesn't do well or whatever, then we can use Bonner instead, on Thursday. So I kind of see the method behind the madness on what we could be foreshadowing of what's going to happen on Thursday with the inactives. It might not be the same names.
Might not. I think Jalen Phillips plays mostly because of Josh Allen and the magnitude of the game and the skill level of the quarterback. He's going to be on the snap count, just as he was today, just as Jalen Ramsey was today. But I think Jalen Phillips is going to play. And look, Big O, I wouldn't want to have to be the one to tell Jalen Phillips you're missing the Thursday night game against Josh Allen. That might not be a nice piece of news to deliver. Jeff Wilson, I thought it was interesting that he was playing some punt coverage, and I hadn't, I kind of watched that stuff during training camp and joint practices. I didn't see him out there a whole lot. That one kind of surprised me, but it's a good way to get the guy snaps, right? He did play from scrimmage, especially early. But if somebody's going to be active, Big O, as you know, you need to do your best to get them snaps, to get them some usage. And so that's going to be the thing that we look for with Ethan Bonner. If he's up next week, is how much are you using him for special teams? How much are you using him to relieve Jalen Ramsey? Storm Duck came on there when Jalen Ramsey was off the field. So a lot of things that, I think the first month of the season, Big O, is going to be interesting for the Dolphins. But I'll say this, Big O, as teams continue to use the joint practices as the main thing in the training camp, And as they continue to use preseason games for younger players, the first 3 or 4 games is kind of a feeling out process of what can we do? This is back in the day, this was a lot of stuff you figured out in training camp and preseason, that third preseason game. This is going to work. That's not going to work. I think that's what you're seeing here when you talk Jeff Wilson and Jalen Wright, when you talk Ethan Bonner and Storm Duck, when you talk about how many snaps can Jalen Ramsey and Jalen Phillips absorb here. This is stuff that previously you might have had this settled coming into the opener, but now you kind of settle it in the first 3 or 4 games. Not that you're throwing these games away, not at all, but you're just kind of figuring this works best. Now we know. You used to figure that out 2 weeks ago. Now you kind of figure that out in the first 2 or 3 games.
I asked your partner, David Furonis, this to start off the interview. I'm going to ask you this now. And you've been at it long enough, so you kind of you can really understand this question. Did we watch in the first half a team that just doesn't hit and doesn't really do much in training camp? Because I was talking about this, Perk. I've been at it for 34 years, bro. The hitting that used to be done 15 and 25 and 30 years ago, when we used to have 2-a-days, and they used to hit on both the 2-a-days and all that, and you got a better feel for what a team is. I almost felt like, like Jalen Ramsey. Like, he didn't practice at all the last month and a half, basically. And now he's out there, and maybe there's an argument behind the scenes like, hey, I got to get out there, and yeah, I'm going to make mistakes, and I'm going to be out of the sync, but that's the only way I get in sync is by getting out there and playing, and maybe they know it, and they got to live through it, because he looked like a player that was out of sync at times. He did a nice job of holding the point on one play, which was really good, but overall, I just saw a team that was so sloppy and it seemed unprepared at times. And I almost feel like their training camp and preseason really doesn't get you prepared for the regular season.
And I think it's easy to say that, Big O, but look, for one thing, it's almost relative across the league. Almost everybody is doing this. Now, nobody's doing it to the extent that the Dolphins are and that Mike McDaniel is. But you're seeing, again, just a lot of the veteran players don't do a whole lot during training camp. And so if it was just Jalen Ramsey, who's a little rusty, that would be one thing. But all veteran players pretty much show a little bit of rust. And I'll say this also with the Dolphins, they have started fast, right? 8-3 and 9-3 under Mike McDaniel. And even last year, they were 5-2 without Jalen Ramsey in those first 7 games. So, look, what Mike McDaniel is doing is different, and it takes some time to get used to, but you can't say that it hasn't, borne fruit. Is that the bared fruit, born fruit? It hasn't produced. How about that, Big O? Nice job from the wordsmith there, right? Can't even talk. But yeah, what Mike McDaniel has been doing has worked. When you start off 8-3 and 9-3, it's really kind of hard to argue with the results.
By the way, the good thing about this is the Jags game is not your Tennessee from last year.
Right.
And in week 1, you already have a loss on your schedule that you say, shit, is this the loss that keeps us out of the playoffs? Is this the loss that we lose the division? Is this the loss that we lose the conference? Is this the loss that we lose the bye week? That, at least, that's not the kind of game that you want to have on your schedule as a loss. So even if it's ugly, at least a win's a win, dude. And it's not the kind of loss that's going to linger and say, shit, where is that loss going to hurt us down the line? Like
100%. 100%. And here's the other thing, Big O, is that this team is continually able to pull its balls out of the fire, right? That you had the big play in special teams with Jason Sanders and the game-winning kick. You also had the Elijah Campbell stripping causing the fumble on the kick return. Defensively, Javon Holland, that strip of Travis Etienne was the play of the game, but we also saw Jalen Phillips with a key sack, right? I think, Calais Campbell started off hot. I think Ogba had a key play there late. And then obviously offensively with Tyreek Hill, and then Jalen Waddle also had a big reception. They're both over 100 yards. So the good thing to me is we continue to see the traits, those big traits that marked the Mike McDaniel era, and it's good to know that that's still here. When you really needed it today, it came through for you, and that's a consistent thing with this team that you don't always want to have to depend on big plays to win games, but it's nice to know that you can still reach back and get those big plays when you need them.
Yeah, I'm with you there. All right, injuries. You were in the locker room. What do we know? David Long was taken in the locker room, but he did come back. I think Jalen Ramsey got a little banged up too, but he stayed in the game. There were a couple of other things. So what do we know about injuries?
Yeah, I haven't seen anything in the locker room that would make you think that this dude is out. David Long, he had it looked like on the sideline, when he made that play, he stuck his arm out, his right arm to make the tackle to trip up the runner, and he stayed down for a little bit. He stayed in the game. Then when he came to the sideline, you could see he went down to his knees, and you could see his arm is extended and he's looking away. And the trainers are down there like they're putting in a dislocated finger. And so after the game, I did see 2 fingers were taped up. I dapped him up, and he gave me his shoulder. I was like, "What's up, Dave? Good job." So obviously the digits aren't good on that hand. Interestingly enough, I'm riding down the elevator post-game to go to the locker room, and one guy gets in, and I'm looking at him, and I'm like, he sure does look familiar. And in the locker room, I look at River Craycraft, and I'm like, "You were on the elevator. You were right next to me." And he goes, "Yeah, I was keeping my head down." He had a sling on his left arm. So I guess that tells us which shoulder it is for River Craycraft. It's the left shoulder. But, yeah, he was standing like a foot away from me, and I kept thinking, boy, that looks like River Craycraft. But he was just in shorts and a T-shirt. But, so that's – River is the only injury that I know after the game. Again, David Long had a couple of fingers taped together, gave me his shoulder when I dapped him up. But those were the only things that I saw in the post-game locker room.
That's good. That's good news. It doesn't look like there's anything serious. I thought they played Dubois just signed.
Yeah.
He was there a lot, dude.
Yep. He was. Yeah, they threw him right in, man. And look, you were short on receivers, right? I don't think that he really got any looks. I don't know where he was in Tua's progressions. I don't know if he was targeted. You might have. Yeah. But the fact that he was out there, I guess, speaks well for him, right? That you're able to grab hold of the offense, and that they trust you enough to put you out there. I mean, look, this wasn't a huge game, but it's a big game, right? It's your home opener against an AFC rival, and you got Buffalo coming in. So the fact that they did trust Dubois, I guess, probably speaks pretty well for him.
Sid Gilman back in the day, I talked about this earlier. He said the field is 120 yards long, and it's 52 and a half yards wide, and we plan on using every inch of it. And so he's pretty much the godfather of the passing game, pretty much considered in the history of the NFL. And that's because he knew how to spread people out. All right, so Perk, I'm not a math major, but I'm married to one, and our offspring, my daughter's a math teacher also. So I'm shitty at math, but, I'm thinking, okay, you got about this half of the field, but you're only passing on the line of scrimmage or behind all the time. And every time you go over the line of scrimmage and you attack, you're having some success, actually. And so I'm thinking there are too many passes at or behind the line of scrimmage. Did you see it the same way?
Well, I definitely thought that early. It seemed like that was all they were doing in the first half, right? And look, I understand wanting to get guys in space and one-on-one. I understand Tua wanting to get the ball out of his hands quickly. I understand the interior offensive line does not maintain blocks as long as, other teams. Again, that's not what you designed the team for, but they could be better. I understand all of that. So really, just with one game, I have to see how this fits into the big picture. Maybe it was the Jacksonville defense, and they were taking what the defense was giving them. I have to check out the safety play. I'll go back and look at the all-22 and see how they were playing Tyreek, see how they were playing Waddle, if there was any in the intermediate range, at least, that was available. I don't know right now off the top of my head, but I think that they kind of got the play calling kind of straightened out in the second half. But I agree, in the first half, it just seemed like so many of those just little flare passes that, if you don't break 2 tackles or 3 tackles, you're probably just going to have a minimal game.
Well, that's because they choose to go cheap in the interior of the line. They
do.
You know what? And I don't blame the front office. They're doing what the coaches want. There's a level of arrogance that comes from the coaches that, no, we can coach them up. We're fine. They'll pay their tackles.
Right.
They'll draft high tackles, but their guards and their centers, they choose not to spend big money or big draft picks. Remember the Hunt pick? That was years ago. That's not these guys. These guys don't spend second-round picks on guards. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and Big O, look, to take it a step further, most of the interior offensive linemen under Mike McDaniel have been converted, right? That Connor Williams is a converted guard, Aaron Brewer, a converted guard, Rob Hunt, Isaiah Wynn, Liam Eichenberg are converted tackles. And then the true guards, Rob Jones and Lester Cotton are undrafted. And so, that's how you see that's, they treat the offensive tackles very differently than they treat the interior offensive line. So far it's worked out okay. It hasn't really, cost them big time, but it has cost them. We see, they've got some bruises and some marks from that strategy and that philosophy. But you're exactly right. The blame has got to go with the coaching staff here because that's Mike McDaniel's goal. I don't like how people pile onto Liam Eichenberg and Rob Jones. And look, they're doing the best they can. At least these guys give a damn. If they were just out there, I missed a block, I don't care, I'm getting paid, then I would point a very ugly accusatory finger toward them. Big O, they give a damn. They're busting their ass. They're trying to do the best that they can. But this is just not their specialty. So, yeah, I think when we talk about this, let's put the blame or accountability. I should say accountability, not blame. Let's put the accountability where it belongs. This is Mike McDaniel's philosophy, and Chris Grier is carrying it out.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt. I mean, it's super obvious that they put no real value in spending money or high picks in the middle of the line. That is just what it is. And they feel they can get by with late round picks and street free agents and undrafted guys, and that they'll be able to coach them up. That's just who they are, bro.
Let me say this, Big O, though, but and I always get into arguments with Omar Kelly about this, that look, if you list the offensive starters number 1 to 22 in order of importance, left guard is going to be 21, right guard is going to be 22. Or vice versa. And if you want to upgrade those positions, well, where do you want to take the downgrade? At safety, at linebacker, at corner? Like, I can kind of see what they're doing. I would do it differently. I would put a little more emphasis on it, but I can't really strongly disagree with what they're doing.
Well, here's the other, let me add a caveat to all of that. Do you know how many guards and centers you find that are undrafted or late? Or they change teams 2 or 3 times over until they find the right system and all that shit happens all the time at that position.
Yep.
And that's where the arrogance comes from because, it's funny. Omar Kelly, we kind of have fun with him because at times he could say, oh, no, you can find a corner off the street, which, but actually you can find guards off the street. You can, actually. You can. And it's just, it happens, and it's just like, all of a sudden, you have a guy here that leaves and he goes to the Giants and finds a career for, I don't know how long he was there, but he was there forever. And Billy Hunter went to Green Bay for, I don't know how many years. And it's weird like that, dude. Guards and centers can float around. Look how arrogant. They bring Brewer and they give him, a minor league deal. It's 3 years for what, 21 million or something? That's super cheap for a center. Bro.
Yep. Yeah, Big O, you know how this is. Look, at all positions, at all times, sometimes it works for people, sometimes it doesn't, right? Look, if we went to Denver and told those Broncos fans Butch Berry is doing a great job with the offensive line, they would drug test us, Big O. They would be like, that dude is terrible. No, Butch Berry has done very well here. So sometimes people stick in different places for whatever reason.
Did Mike Shanahan spend any high picks on running backs? No.
Yeah, correct. He did not. No, he did not. Yep.
Does Mike McDaniel spend any high picks and big money on running backs? Third round is the highest they'll go. And they just gave a guy that scored 20 touchdowns $3 million.
Yep, exactly. Hey, you know what? That offense is it's effective, right? They know what they're doing.
It works for them. That's their philosophy.
Right.
They're going to spend money. They'll spend money at the wide receiver. They're not going to spend money at running. That's why I kept laughing at all the people back a year ago. Oh no, they're trading for Dalvin Cook and they're going to pay him and they're going to pay Jonathan. No, dude. If those guys want low-hanging fruit, yeah, they'll come over. No, we'll sign you. Come on over. But, oh, no, we're going to trade. I knew from the get-go, like, that's not their philosophy. They're not, actually, that's not a Mike McDaniel thing. That's actually a Chris Greer thing that Mike McDaniel has continued.
Yeah, and look, I was a Dalvin Cook person. I still do think they need to find a solid number 3 on this offense. And look, we saw today, with no –
You don't like White?
No, well, I don't. He's a rookie. I don't know that he's dependable, and I mean a number 3 option on the offense, not necessarily a number 3 running back or not necessarily a number 3 receiver. The number 3 option, and that's what I thought Dalvin Cook could be. Maybe Jonnu Smith turns into that. We thought OBJ could turn into that, but that's why I wanted Dalvin Cook, is so that you have something aside from Tyreek and Jalen Waddle. I don't care if it's I don't care if it's a slot receiver, a tight end, or running back. I would just like to see a third hammer on this offense.
Yeah, and I thought it would be Jonnu, and I don't know what today. That was crazy. All right, Perk, what are you working on the Sentinel so folks can check you out?
Big O, I'm going to write today just kind of about the big plays that they made all around, and then especially on special teams. I talked to Jason Sanders about kicking the field goal. And look, this is a guy who, whatever you want to say about him, he kicked you into the playoffs 2 years ago against the Jets, 11-6. He kicked you into the playoffs last year, 22-20 against Dallas, making 5 field goals, and he wins this game today. Now, could things be better with him? Yes, they could. But, he made that big play for you. Jake Bailey on special teams, just flipping the field and nailing them. He did a great job today. Elijah Campbell makes a play in special teams, right? He has the strip on the kickoff return. So special teams played a big role, but big plays also played a big role. And that's what I'm going to write about, is just how this team was able to find a way today. It didn't look great in the first half. They were able to put some stuff together and find a way to win.
I saw it on TV. I did not know this. Jason Sanders, with the kick he hit, he's 8 of 8 for game-winning or tying field goals in the final 2 minutes in overtime.
Yep.
So we just got to hold off on the field goals in between that time.
That's right. That's it. You got the answer.
We're at the 7-minute mark in the third quarter. Hey, coach, he sucks at that moment. Don't do it.
That's right.
Wait till the 2-minute mark, okay? 2-minute mark, okay? There you go. So whoever's helping out the coach with game management just got to remind him. All right, do we go for the field? No, Jason, no. We got to wait for the 2-minute mark,
That's
right. It's an 84-yard field goal. Doesn't matter. There's 30 seconds left. He'll hit it.
That's right.
Don't worry about it. He'll get it done.
Exactly. Hey, and I got to find out if they got the ball. That right after that kick, I saw somebody tearing down the field. It was Blake Ferguson, the deep snapper. He did get the ball, but he told me, I said, so you gave it to Jason? And he was like, I don't know. He goes, I got in the locker room and Jason didn't have it. So we got to find out what happened to that ball also.
Well, usually I don't know who it is.
The team.
I don't know which guy, if Joe was doing it or whatever. But, Tony Egwis would have been all over that shit. Somebody is catching that ball and making sure and putting that tape on it. And
that's right.
And who it is. All right. Follow him on Twitter at Chris Perk. As always, catch his exceptional work there at the South Florida Sun Sentinel, and catch him every post game with our EJDconstruction.com post game report. Thank you, sir. I appreciate you.
See you next week. I'll see you on Thursday
night. We'll talk on Thursday night, my friend. Thank you.
All right, we go.
Got it. There you go. Chris Perkins with our EJDconstruction.com Miami Dolphins post-game report.